Hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios. Patch 1.7 is about to drop onto the live servers, and a lot of people are speculating about what the meta will be like after the changes. For Season 3, like many of you know, tanks have been absolutely dominating the scene, and most standard meta comps have 3 or 4 tanks on them. D.Va and Roadhog, along with Ana, have been absolutely dominating, and it's really choked out a lot of the potential DPS characters who can't take down a tank being pocketed by an Ana. The professional scene has been full of triple and quadruple tank comps, and half of the top 10 players on every competitive ladder have either D.Va or Roadhog as their most played hero. Now, Blizzard is taking away 200 of D.Va's armor and converting it to health, as well as lowering her effective DPS, making her a much easier target to remove, as well as changing Roadhog's hook to stop if line of sight is broken or the enemy hero moves out of sight. Additionally, Ana's healing boost from her biotic grenade has been halved. These are some pretty huge moves by Blizzard to limit the power of the tank-Ana combo, and it's pretty easy to see how these heroes will come out weaker. However, today I want to take a look at the hidden changes of the patch and analyze who was indirectly buffed as a result. First off, let's take a look at Mercy. Mercy used to be an incredibly huge staple of the competitive scene, as her ult is by far the strongest in the game. Keep your Mercy alive and you can hold out against huge ultimate combos and come back to wipe the enemies due to your numbers or ultimate advantage. The only real counter to a Mercy is hunting her down before or during a fight, and that can be incredibly tough up against a coordinated team. However, Mercy's been incredibly overshadowed recently by Ana's absurd healing strength. Although Ana's ult isn't quite as good as Mercy's, her single target healing is far stronger. In addition, the gross utility of her AoE heal, healing reduction, and sleep dart allow her to completely outshine Mercy during a fight. There's not much of a need to resurrect your team if you've kept them all alive after all. Now, I'm not saying Mercy is going to come flying back into the meta, or that Ana is by any means dead. However, we do have to look at how much stronger Mercy will be now that Ana's healing isn't quite as ridiculous. Not only is the healing boost from Biotic Grenade halved, but the nerf to Roadhog and D.Va might mean far fewer tanks in the meta. The primary reason that Ana is currently so powerful is that she always has tanks to heal up. She can constantly keep her team topped off while gaining ult charge, and her tank's large health pools allow her some leeway in setting up line of sight and aiming. Ana's healing ends up being far less effective on lower total HP targets, since it actually proves to be quite a bit more difficult than something like Mercy's Beam, which also restores health in faster increments. Although Ana will likely always outshine Mercy when it comes to tank healing, Mercy can provide some powerful advantages when paired up with a heavier DPS composition. Although Ana's ult is a superpowered version of Mercy's Beam, you can damage boost targets from the start of the map and for a reliably long amount of time to either break a siege or to build an ultimate. Also, with fewer tanks on each team, Mercy's ultimate might be quite a bit more useful. It's something we'll have to wait and see once it hits live, but I'm pretty sure the support slot won't be quite so fully dominated by Ana and Lucio any longer. Next up is Sombra, a hero who's actually receiving a true buff in this patch, with her hack time being reduced from 1 second to 0.8 seconds. However, I do believe this patch will be giving her quite a bit of hidden power as well, due to her hacking abilities. One of Sombra's largest strengths, and pretty much the sole reason she's been used competitively, is her ability to hack health packs. Hacking health packs grants you ult charge every time a member of your team heals off of them, allowing Sombra to get her ult faster than most other heroes in the game at the competitive level. This has always been a strength of hers, but in the tank meta, health packs are actually quite a bit less useful when they only heal for a small percentage of a tank's total life. If flankers like Genji and Tracer come back into the meta, Sombra could be an incredibly powerful tool to combine with them, hacking health packs early on and allowing her team a lot more leeway in the backlines, or denying them from the enemy flankers. After a bit of healing and damage of her own, a potent Sombra ultimate could set up for a huge push for her team. Sombra's hack sometimes felt a little useless on someone like Roadhog, whose powerful shotgun means he relies on his abilities far less than most other heroes in the middle of a fight. With Reinhardt taking his spot again as the primary tank, and with other ability-reliant supports like Mercy potentially rejoining the meta, a hack on the enemy team could prove much more useful. Finally, one of Sombra's weaknesses has been her lackluster damage on tanks, especially ones with armor. Her submachine gun barely tickles targets like Reinhardt and D.Va, but put her up against a much more balanced composition with 4 non-tanks, and her damage could become drastically more meaningful. Our next hidden buff is to our good pal Winston, who's been completely left out of the recent tank meta. Winston's got a lot of issues at the moment. His damage is significantly lower than other tanks, he gets torn apart by spread weapons like D.Va and Roadhogs, and he can't really do anything up against a roster of 3 tanks. However, his mobility and ability to stick on a target is definitely better than any other tank's, which is why I think this patch is buffing him up quite a bit. With D.Va's armor and damage nerfs, she won't straight up be a better Winston anymore, and although I think she'll still be powerful, she won't be nearly as strong when diving into the enemy line since she'll be desuited much easier. In a more balanced team comp, with more squishy DPS targets and supports in the back line, Winston should be able to jump and really cause some havoc far more effectively than he could in the current patch. Winston really has a lot of strengths that haven't been fully explored by the masses, but some players like Miro have really mastered him and seen just how effective he can be at disrupting back lines. With other tanks being brought down in power level, it may give us a bit more leeway to practice Winston and really figure out an effective playstyle, compared to someone much more straightforward like Roadhog. It's important to remember that part of what makes a hero strong is their ability to be played effectively. Roadhog's playstyle is very simple, it's easy to get hooks and bust shields. With more complex heroes like Sombra, or ones with trickier positioning like Winston, it could take us some time to find out where they truly fit in the new meta, but I feel pretty confident that this patch will buff them by quite a bit. Our next hidden buff is to our favorite cyborg ninja, Genji. Genji's had quite a few chances in the spotlight throughout Overwatch's short history, from the good old Zenyatta Symmetra comp in beta to the Ana boost comp in Season 2. However, he's been quite a bit weaker this season in the tank meta. Professional Genji players like Shadowburn have found themselves picking up more standard meta options like D.Va, and it's gotten progressively more difficult over time to make Genji work in a composition. His damage against large armored targets like D.Va is pretty pitiful, and Genji's strength relies on his ability to get in and out of combat with quick dash resets. When facing down someone like Roadhog, he exposes himself far more than he's comfortable with, and frees up opportunities to be hooked, slept, or gunned down by the enemy DPS. With D.Va being brought way down in power, and with Roadhog's hook becoming much more forgiving for a hooked Genji since his dash can break line of sight, Genji should be able to find a lot more safety in fights while he hunts down the enemy backline for some easy kills. In a balanced composition, Genji is a premier flanker and may be able to combo extremely well with someone like Sombra, which we mentioned before, who can keep him healed up and who can disable enemy defenses when it's time for his ultimate. Genji really receives a ton of hidden power when his most difficult counters are nerfed, and the one hero he'll likely have to worry about the most is McCree, if he does see a rise in popularity. Speaking of McCree, he's next on our list of possible hidden buffs in the 1.7 update. As a character who's recently been majorly overshadowed by Soldier 76, McCree still has a lot of strengths that are currently being underutilized. For Season 3, it's been the case that Soldier simply does McCree's job better. Not only can he take out long distance targets and airborne targets, but his high clip size allows him to tear through tanks and shields consistently. Soldier is just so absolutely powerful in sustained fights versus tank comps that he's almost irreplaceable, since without a source of guaranteed damage like that, then it's almost impossible to secure kills. However, in a balanced team composition, McCree's strengths can shine a bit more. His time to kill is far lower if he's skilled enough to land consistent headshots, and his flashbang grenade can be absolutely game-saving when it comes to defending your backline healers against a Genji or a Tracer. Even though Soldier didn't get nerfed at all this patch, McCree should be able to face off against him a little bit more in a meta with fewer tanks. Additionally, we may see more teams running both Soldier and McCree in a 2-2-2 composition, opting to go for two relatively consistent damage dealers and skirmishers. McCree loves targets that he can eliminate in 2 headshots, which is why he's suffered quite a bit against D.Va as of late. Bringing back a McCree to take out a Reinhardt shield or a flanking Genji, or to combo for a huge high noon burst, may be enough to make him an important part of the new meta. The final hidden buff I'd like to talk about involves my favorite hero of all time with over 150 hours played, Zarya. Zarya players like Lucios and Reinhardt mains have always been lucky in that they've never gone out of the meta entirely. Although D.Va and Roadhog are currently favored quite a bit more than Zarya, she's still seeing her place as a 3rd or 4th tank in most compositions. Just because she's strong now doesn't mean that she can't be buffed though, and that's exactly what's happening in 1.7. Zarya is fairly powerful against D.Va, however D.Va's defense matrix can give you an absurd amount of trouble when you're looking for an ultimate. Although your primary fire can always hit her, it barely tickles if you aren't charged up enough, and it can delay your team's engage by a huge amount while you're trying to desuit her. If the enemies don't have a D.Va in the first place, then you're free to throw out your ultimate as soon as you find an opportunity to catch them out without fear of it disappearing into the void. If D.Va does stay in the meta, then at least her decreased armor will allow you to take out her suit quite a bit more easily in order to set up your own combos. Ana's also been a hero that historically gives Zarya some issues. A biotic grenade in the middle of a graviton surge is quite an absurd amount of health to the enemy team, and the increased healing can allow Ana and her fellow support to keep her team alive through your burst. Although Zarya's ult combined with another high damage ultimate like Roadhog's or D.Va's can still wipe a team through Ana's healing, Ana severely limited Zarya's ability to wipe out a team by herself using her ultimate. Bringing down the healing boost of Ana's E definitely gives Zarya a lot more power when she does manage to find a large ultimate. And that just about does it for our overview of the potential buffs coming up in patch 1.7. Let us know in the comments below who you think is going to be strong and who you're going to be playing once the patch lands, and if you liked the video, then we'd love it if you guys would like and subscribe. Anyway, this has been Overwatch Curios, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.